Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fantasy players of all ages, The Fantasy Goods brings to you our top 12 PPR fantasy football players of the world. You got your boy, Benny Bubats, the one and only Josh Lipinski, and we are the Fantasy Goods, and we're here to give you the goods. Hey guys, how you doing today? My name is Ben. This is Josh. This is Fantasy Goods. Today we're going to talk about 12-man PPR. We're going to compare Fantasy Pros rankings to our rankings. But before we do that, if you can leave a comment, click the subscribe button, give us a like. We appreciate everything. First person we're going to talk about today, Fantasy Pros has it on the rankings, is Christian McCaffrey. Now, he's just an overall monster. You know, he had his second best fantasy season of all time. He is the player that you want to pick for your number one draft. Over 1,300 rushing yards, over 1,000 receiving yards, 100-plus receptions. This guy's a monster, and that Cam Newton is gone. That might even be more time to run the ball with him. He's just going to be a PPR monster. Josh, what do you think about it?
Absolutely, man. This guy is a PPR player's dream. He was second all-time fantasy season, only to LaDainian Tomlinson. So, over 1,000 yards rushed, 1,000 yards receiving, 100 receptions. That's just PPR gold right there. He's a consensus number one overall pick. He's got a new quarterback with Teddy Bridgewater and a new head coach, Matt Rule. So we'll see how he does in that offense. But, I think they're still going to use him and pump him up with more and more touches and just let him succeed this year. Christian McCaffrey, number one overall, absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely a no-brainer. All right, so at number 2, Fantasy Pros got ranked Qualm Barkley. Now, he's the monster. Josh, you're a Giants fan. What do you think about him at number 2? I know you got him at number 2 also.
Love my G-Man, baby. And I love Mr. Tree Trunk guys. Number 26, Qualm Barkley at number 2. I think that's a great spot for him. Had a great rookie season 2 years ago. Last year, still put up 1,000 yards rushing, 400 yards receiving, even though he missed 3 games with injury. And now you got a much improved offensive line. They went out and drafted a left tackle with the 4th overall pick. They can move Nate Solder over. They have good interior alignment. I think that's a very improved O-line. So that's only going to help Saquon rush in the end. And then new head coach Joe Judge, coming from the Patriots, there are a lot of creative coaches over there and coordinators. Him coming in, I think they're going to utilize Saquon in a bunch of different ways. And I think he's going to have another successful season and be the number 2 running back in fantasy this year. I really think that.
I mean, a man can dream. A man can dream. Mm-hmm. Number 2, I have Michael Thomas, and that's a no-brainer for me at least. He broke the single-season reception record last year. I mean, dude's an overall monster. Drew Brees' favorite target. I mean, that's a no-brainer for me. But that's what we're going to talk about at number 3 because Fantasy Pros has Michael Thomas ranked number 3 overall. And I see that you also do have Michael Thomas ranked at number 3. What do you think about Michael Thomas at number 3?
Love Michael Thomas. I wouldn't look at you cross-eyed for taking him at 2 either. I just like having the running back stat early. I think they do a little more than wide receivers. But Michael Thomas at number 3 is the perfect spot for him. He's the number 1 wide receiver on the board without a doubt in my mind. Last year he led the league with 1,725 yards. Like you said, broke the record with 149 receptions and almost had double-digit touchdowns. He had 9. And he did that with Drew Brees being injured half the season. So he did that with Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Brees. Imagine him having a whole season of Drew Brees. The next closest receiver was 300 yards away, the second leading receiver. So Michael Thomas absolutely here at number 3. I'm taking him.
Can't guard Mike. That's his handle. Can't guard Mike, and that's for a reason. All right, and in my number 3, I have my boy. Where's my Cowboy Nation, baby? Ezekiel Elliott. And I tell you right now, Zeke, he is going to have a monster year. I have him as my number 2 running back over Qualm Barkley, and that's because if the Cowboys can pay Dak, if they can get this thing with Dak settled, now that Dak has all these weapons, and I know we've heard this story before, but now he has Blake Jarwin, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup. Now they have to respect the pass. you got to respect the pass, and that opens up for Ezekiel Elliott. And I tell you right now, you thought he was good last year and the year before. Wait till this year. I think he's going to do phenomenal things. Now, I see that Fantasy Pros has him ranked number 4 overall, 3rd overall running back. Josh, that's the same with you. What do you think?
So Ben, are you saying that this year is the Cowboys' year? Because we've all heard this before. But I will say, I do have Ezekiel Elliott at number 4. I think this is the perfect spot. Ezekiel Elliott's a very talented running back, 1,300 yards rushing, 400 yards receiving, and 13 touchdowns last year. Absolutely one of the most consistent backs in the league since he's entered the league. 3 of his 4 seasons in the league, he's had over 300 touches and over 1,000 yards rushing. And now Mike McCarthy's their new head coach. That's kind of my one knock on him. But I still think that it doesn't matter. He's going to do great. But Mike McCarthy's never produced a top fantasy running back. So we'll see what he does with this Cowboys offense. Like you said, they are stacked. They do have a lot of weapons. I'm not going to deny it. And I think they did a great job with that defense this offseason too. So Cowboys are definitely, contenders to win this division. And, it's all going to rely on Zeke and how Dak uses these weapons. But I have Zeke at number 4, and I think that's a smart place to take him.
Yeah. Now, in my number 4 spot, I have Qualm Barkley. Now, we already talked about tree trunks over there. He's just a monster. And as a Cowboys fan, when we face the Giants, I ain't worried. Personally, I'm not worried. The only person I'm worried about is number 26, and when he's on the field, that everybody's watching him. And that's for a reason, because you can have 3-4 guys looking at Saquon, and he's just going to break loose. He's just a monster. We'll start out at number 5 now. Now, Fantasy Pros got ranked Kamara at number 5. Now, Josh, me and you both have Al Kamara at number 5. What do you think about that?
He's definitely just one of the best running backs there is. He's not that traditional running back that's going to get you 1,000 yards every season. Actually, he's never had 1,000 yards rushing yet, but he gets the all-purpose yardage. He's a PPR guy. He's going to get he's had 700 yards rushing and 500 yards receiving in each of his 3 NFL seasons, and he's going to get you those fantasy points that way. He's very versatile. And anytime he touches the ball, it's a chance for a home run and taking it to the end zone. And last year, he did it without Drew Brees most of the time. He was a little nicked up, missed 2 games, and still put up 797 and 533 in rushing and receiving yards. So I think that, he's definitely primed for another really good year. This is one of the best offenses in the league. You really do want a part of it. And obviously Michael Thomas is number 1. This guy is the close number 2. So I would plug him in at running back 1, take him at 5, and I would feel absolutely confident about it.
Yeah, no, I tell you right now, if he drops to me at 5, I'd be ecstatic. I had this guy 2 years ago. I won my championship. You know that. Bragging rights, baby. Hammer League. What's good? And last year, he got banged up a little bit, but he still played. He still played well. He's a PPR dream. I would love to take him at 5. And at number 6, Fantasy Pros got ranked Dalvin Cook. Tell you right now, Dalvin Cook, I think he's going to do great this season. He is injury prone a little bit. He gets hurt. He gets banged up. He's a downfield runner. He likes to hit people, and that's what happens. But they got rid of Stephon Diggs. They traded him away. That should be more touches for Dalvin Cook. Hopefully it works out. But I have Dalvin Cook right now at number 6. Hopefully he can stay healthy, and I think he could. What about for you? Now I see you have DeAndre Hopkins at number 6. What's up with that?
I got Nuke going here, man. I think that 6 is a little early for Dalvin Cook. Don't get me wrong, he had a good year last year, first time cracking 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns, but he has yet to complete an entire season and be healthy. 4 games in his first year, 10 games in his second year, and 14 games in his third year. So he has yet to complete a season. He's always nicked up. So for me to go and spend, the number 6 pick on a guy that I don't even know if he's going to give me a full season, I'm going to stay away, maybe take him a little later in the first round. But I love me some DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's going to play really aggressive this year, getting traded to the Cardinals from the Texans for David Johnson. He had 104 receptions last year, 1,165 yards and 7 touchdowns, and he missed a game. Back in 2018, guy didn't drop a pass. 0 drop passes. Not even the great Larry Fitzgerald has had a season with 0 drop passes. Speaking of which, is now his new teammate. So how about that little tag team right there? And then you go with his new quarterback, Colin Murray. He won Rookie of the Year last year. So you're going to think that, all right, yeah, Murray's a downgrade from Watson. But winning Rookie of the Year and without an elite wide receiver like Hopkins, he threw for 3,722 yards and 20 touchdowns. Now you throw an elite receiving option like Hopkins in there, I think they could do phenomenal things, and I think that you need to watch out for the Arizona Cardinals this year. I don't know if they'll quite dethrone the Seahawks in that division, but they're going to give them a run for their money. You watch. I love D. Hopkins at 6. I think he's going to be the number 2 wide receiver on the board.
Well, that's a bold move, Cotton. We'll see if that pays off. Well, this is where it starts to get a little shaky. You're in the middle of the first round, and people start to take other people. So you don't really know who's going to get taken, but right now at number 7, we got Davante Adams. Now, me personally, I like Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is just a bulldozer, bro. He led the league in rushing attempts with 303, over 1,500 yards. I was actually watching the game the other day of the Ravens versus the Titans, and Derrick Henry just looked like a freaking monster, just running up and down the field. Earl Thomas, boom, just knocked him on his ass, man. And he led the league in rushing attempts with 303. He rushed for 1,500 yards, over 1,500 yards. Got 16 touchdowns. He still has a solid line, but he lost Jack Conklin. We'll see how that goes for him. But I think I would actually have Derrick Henry over Dalvin Cook. The thing is, Derrick Henry is just a workhorse, and I don't know how much he can take. How many weapons does that offense have? But what about for you? What do you think about Davante Adams at 7?
I'm going to go with a hard pass here at 7 with Davante Adams. I think that's far too early for him. He kind of came off a little bit of a lull of a year, last year. At 7 here, I'm going to go with the wide receiver number 1 of the most explosive offense in the league. I like Tyreke Hill here at 7. This guy's going to give you the bang for your buck at 7. He's the fastest player in the NFL with 2 feet. He's got the strongest arm quarterback in the league in Patrick Mahomes, who could throw 75 yards through the air. So it doesn't matter. This Tyreke Hill is the fastest wide receiver in the league. He actually has the most separation per target. When he plays on the outside, it's about 3.1 yards of separation. And when he plays it in the slot, it's 4 yards of separation. So no D-back can cover this guy. And Pat Mahomes can just throw it up in the air and depend on this guy to run down the field and get underneath it for a touchdown. I love Tyreke Hill. I think he'll give you the bang for your buck at 7. And this is who I would take in this spot.
Dude, I would not be mad if someone took Tyreke Hill. I got Tyreke Hill at 8, and I totally agree. I just want a piece of this Chiefs offense. This Chiefs offense is explosive, and they put up points. I don't care what part of this offense I get. I want a part of it. And Tyreke Hill, I think, is Patrick Mahomes' best weapon that he has. The most impact fantasy-wise, short of Travis Kelce. But they have Derrick Henry ranked at number 8. What do you think about that? I have Derrick Henry at 7. You already knew that. We already just went over that. You have Derrick Henry at 8. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Derrick Henry here. I'm going to go with, obviously, I'm going to take Tyreke Hill just over Derrick Henry. I love Derrick Henry. Led the league in just about every rushing statistic last year. He is a big, burly tank of a man. 6'3", plays between 240 and 250 pounds during the season, depending on what he wants to eat that week. But don't let his size fool you. He's still a very fast man. In his rookie combine, he ran a 4.5 4.40, which is among some of the elite running backs in the league. And then in 2018, he ran for 99 yards on a run. That means he beat out and ran faster than any D-back. No one can catch him. And next-gen stats had him clocked at just over 21 miles an hour. Yeah. So not only is he big, he's fast, he's talented. He had a great line last year. Like you mentioned, they lost Jack Conklin. They didn't do anything to address that. But they still got Taylor Lewan, Ben Jones. They're still solid on at least the left side of the line. And, I think they do have some weapons. A.J. Brown, emerged last year as a rookie. So we'll see how that goes. I think he'll have another great year this year, but I don't know if he's going to be top of the league. We'll see. But I have him right here at 8. I think is a great spot if you could get King Henry.
Yeah, no. King Henry VIII, I am. But, yeah, so at number 9, Fantasy Pros has ranked Julio down by the schoolyard Jones. Now, I'm not going to knock someone for picking him. At number 9, I have DeAndre Hopkins, and I know you got him a little bit early. That's just I can't spend that much. If I'm at number 6 where you are, I could not pick DeAndre Hopkins, knowing that all that talent is still out there. But at number 9, I think he's perfect. We're right there, The reason why he drops a little bit in mine is because the chemistry in Arizona, I don't know it. I haven't seen it. I'm not doubting the talent's not going to be there. That's why he's my number 9. I think he's going to produce, and I think I think the Cardinals can have a great squad this year, but I just got to see it to believe it. I'd rather have someone solid like Derrick Henry or Tyreke Hill than DeAndre Hopkins. But at number 9, perfect. But what about you? What do you got?
I mean, I love Julio, but I wouldn't take him right here when there's still a solid running back on the board. This is where I would take Dalvin Cook. Now we're starting to get to the back end of the first round. A guy that could absolutely put up running back 1 numbers, like I said last year. He rushed for 1,100 plus yards rushing, 500 plus yards receiving, 13 touchdowns. Double-digit touchdowns is huge. They had a top 5 defense last year, and in turnovers. So that could give them even more opportunities for Cook to score and get the ball. But just as long as he stays healthy, this is where I'd like to take him right here at 9. I think this is where he's valued in my opinion. Dalvin Cook.
Okay, well, Fantasy Pros at number 10 has Joe Mixon. Now, this is a surprise to me. Because when I saw that, I was like, this has to be a typo. I mean, I hear, Joe Mixon's is overdue for a comeback, Bengals. That's the only word that turns me off, Bengals. I understand they got a new quarterback in Joe Burrow. They got a new wide receiver, T. Higgins. They got Ross. They got A.J. Green. I'm just there's just something about Joe Mixon that he's not worth the first-round pick for me, Right here at number 10, I have Davante Adams. And I love where Davante Adams falls to at number 10 because if anybody tells you that, Davante Adams, all you hear is Aaron Rodgers ain't got no weapons. Aaron Rodgers got no weapons. He has Davante Adams. And I tell you right now, if I have Davante Adams, I'm going to be happy because if that's his only weapon, I'm gonna be ecstatic. I mean, I understand. Like last year, he got turf toe. He was out for a couple games. Fights for the ball 1-on-1 is very hard. I like Davante Adams at number 10. What about for you? You got Julio.
Yeah, I just like you, I'm not loving Joe Mixon here. Joe Mixon to me is more of an early second rounder to me. And they say he's due for a comeback, but you can't call it a comeback because the guy's had back-to-back 1,100-yard seasons. 1,168 rushing in 2018, 1,137 rushing last year. Finished running back 13 last year, so you can't call that a comeback. He's still one of the top running backs in the league. But I'm going to go where the value is right here, and I'm going to take the next best wide receiver in my opinion, which is not Davante Adams. It's my boy, Julio Jones. Me and Julio down by the schoolyard. I've had this guy for the last 2 seasons, and he is by far one of my favorite wide receivers. The guys that know me know I'm a big Megatron fan just because he's a big go up and get the ball over 8 guys. It doesn't matter who covers him, he's going to go up and get the ball. And, that's what Julio is. He's a big, solid receiver, and he's fast. He's one of the most consistent that there is. 1,300-yard seasons, 6 consecutive seasons. Last year, he finished second to Michael Thomas in receiving with 99 receptions, 1,394 yards. But his big issue is he never gets in the end zone. So that stat that I was just giving you, there was only 6 touchdowns. And it's so consistent that he never gets in the end zone that in his 9-year career, he's only had 1 double-digit touchdown season. And that was all the way back in 2012. Now I'm hoping now that they got Todd Gurley coming into the fold that everyone's going to have to respect the run in Atlanta and actually not, they're going to have to stack the box eventually to stop Gurley. And that'll open up some opportunities for Julio to have another great year. But this guy is consistently finishing as a top wide receiver. So if you could grab Julio here at the number 10 pick, you're getting a steal, in my opinion. I love Julio Jones right here.
Yeah, I got Julio as my number 11th. And I like Davante Adams slightly more just for the fact that they brought Todd Gurley in. Calvin Ridley is emerging now. You see how good he did last year. He really stepped it up. And with Julio, like you say, he doesn't get the touchdowns. When you get Julio, you're like, yeah, we got Julio. And then it's like, fuck, got Julio. And then it's like, yeah, mid-season Julio, what's good? And then it's like, God damn it, Julio. It's too much of a roller coaster ride for me. I'd rather take Davante Adams. But at number 11, if he's gone and Julio's there, I'm more than happy to take Julio Jones. I'm not saying not to take him, but I just, at that position, Davante Adams, I take him a little bit over Julio this year. But they have Tyreke Hill. We already talked about Tyreke Hill, Fantasy Pros. Number 11, Tyreke Hill again.
Yeah, he's already off both our boards. I think they have Tyreke Hill rated way
11,
too low. He missed a couple games due to injury last year.
Yeah.
And he still put up over 800 yards and 7 touchdowns. Tyreke Hill should be off your board already. If you haven't taken him, you're a fool. Yeah. So here at 11, instead of Tyreke Hill, I like Davante Adams. Me and you Swift swap. Where we like Davante Adams and Julio Jones. Yeah. But I just think Julio Jones is a little more consistent. Davante Adams, missed 2 games with injury last year, came up just short of 1,000 yards. He is Aaron Rodgers' favorite target. They didn't do anything to help Rodgers this year, so there's really nobody else to go to in the throwing game other than Davante Adams. So Aaron Rodgers is probably being pissed off, and the one that's going to be on the receiving end of that is Davante Adams. I just hope he doesn't break Davante Adams' fingers with some pissed off, bullets. But, Davante Adams is very consistent with his catches, 65% or better in his last 2 seasons in his catch percentage, and 3 double-digit touchdown seasons back in 2016, 17, and 18. So he had a little drop-off last year. So we'll see what they do in Green Bay. But I just read something today that they're planning on using Jordan Love in a couple of special packages. So, this could help or hurt his relationship with Aaron Rodgers, moving forward. So that's why he drops a little lower for me. But Davante Adams here is a great pick for me, especially if you need a wide receiver.
Imagine that if they use Love like Hill, like on New Orleans,
like a Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
I could see. I think that's what they're thinking.
With Aaron Rodgers too, I like to see that. That'd be a show. I don't think Aaron Rodgers likes to share the ball the same way Brett Favre didn't like to share the ball. He doesn't want to be a mentor to this kid because this kid's going to take his job. So we'll see how it works out, but I just don't see that being conducive. Not every team can pull that off. How many times we tried to see people pull off 2 quarterback systems? Remember the Jets when they tried with Tim Tebow and who was it? Who was the other guy? You don't even remember because it just didn't work. Yeah. Well, at number 12, Fantasy Pros has ranked DeAndre Hopkins. Now, we already talked about DeAndre Hopkins. New team, new system, new quarterback, new everything. Talent's there. We'll just see what happens. If he falls at 12, though, I'd be more than happy to take him. So, at number 12, this might be a little bit of a surprise to people, but I have Chris Godwin. Now, I know what you think. Chris Godwin, there's so many weapons. You got Gronk, you got Mike Evans. The running back situation is a little bit shaky. Tom Brady has favored his slot receivers throughout his career, and Godwin lines up on both the inside and outside of the wide receiver position. 50% of the time, he's in slot. Let's just face it. He racked up 276 fantasy points last year, and 197 of them came in the slot. And I think he's just going to have a huge jump this year. You thought last year was something. Wait till this year. But like I said, at number 12, they have DeAndre Hopkins. Now, Josh, you have a little something different too now. What do you have?
Yeah, if Hopkins is sitting here at 12, I'm grabbing him, obviously, because I have him going half a round earlier. And, I wouldn't look at anyone sideways for taking Chris Godwin here. Chris Godwin did great last year. But I'm going to lean more towards a running back I like here, and that's going to be Nick Chubb. I like myself. I love me some Chubb. He's a good size back. I love the Chubb. He's a good size back. They're going to need to lean on this run game. He finished RB8 last year with 1,494 rushing yards, almost 300 carries at 298. So that's great volume right there. And I know a lot of people are saying that now that Kareem Hunt's back, he lost some touches last year, which he did lose a couple. But Chubb's never been a successful, really great third down back. If you look at his receiving, he was never really a receiving back. He's never had a season with more than 50 receptions or 300 receiving yards. So that can be Kareem Hunt's role, and it won't hurt Chubb's value at all. So if Kareem Hunt being on the field is not going to hurt Chubb, I still like him here if he finishes in the top 10 RB spot. So he was on an absolute tear even before Hunt came back with averaging 20 touches a game. So I think he's, although in a very tough division, I think he'll continue to succeed in his early down back role and easily going to have another 1,000-yard season in my mind. So I think he's absolutely worth the last pick in the first round. And if he slides you in the early second, I'd grab him as well. But I like Nick Chubb here.
All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up. Top 12 PPR, we got my rankings, you got Josh's rankings. Make sure you click the subscribe button and make sure you like and make sure you leave a comment. Show us some love, and I guarantee you we'll show some love back. We're the Fantasy Goods. See you next time.
We got the goods. Thanks for watching, guys.
Boom.